All right. The ratio, the number of Republicans to the number of Democrats was 3/5. So when it says ratio, I think of fraction. That's why I've got R over D equals 3/5. After 600 additional Republicans, so what math operation would that be? An additional 600, that would be addition. So R plus 600. And additional 500 Democrats. So I'm adding 500 to D. We have a new ratio, and that new ratio is 4/5. Now, always know what you're trying to find. After these registrations, which is this here, there were how many more voters in the district registered as Democrats than as Republicans? So it sounds like there's more Democrats, and we want to know how many more. Well, I have two equations, so I can solve either one of these equations for either R or D and then plug it in the other one. It doesn't matter which one you solve for because eventually you're going to figure out the number of Republicans and Democrats. So I'm just going to take the top one because it looks easier to solve. And so that would be, I'm going to cross multiply. So that gives me 5R equals 3D. And that means R is 3D over 5, divided by size by 5. Now, this is going to look nasty, but it's not too bad. Everywhere there's an R in this equation where I have a star, I'm going to substitute in 3D over 5. So 3D over 5 plus 600 over D plus 500 equals 4/5. And see, the nice thing now, I can solve this equation. It's an equation for D, and I'll know the number of Democrats, the original number of Democrats. So this is a complex fraction because you've got a fraction within a fraction. So I'll look at this thing called the secondary denominator. Doesn't matter if you know the name of that. And I've only got one of them. So my common denominator for this fraction would be 5. So I'm going to multiply every term in the top by 5 and every term in the bottom by 5. 5 over 5, the value, that's 1. So we're not changing the value. We're just changing how it looks. So when I multiply this first fraction by 5, those 5s will cancel. So I'm left with 3D plus, now 5 times 600, that's 3,000. Now you got to multiply the bottom by 5 as well. 5D plus 2,500. And what's that equal? 4/5. And now let's cross multiply again. I'm going to show all my steps, but I wouldn't show this next step on the GMAT because I want to save time. You've got 5 times 3D plus 3,000 equals 4 times 5D plus 2,500. Now multiply through, and that gives you, well, what's the problem here? That gives you 15D plus 15,000. And on the other side, I've got 20D multiplied through by 4 plus 10,000. Plus 10,000. 1, 2, 3, sorry. All right, let's subtract 15D from both sides, and that's going to leave me a 5D. Subtract 10,000 from both sides, and that's going to give me a 5,000. Divide both sides by 5. Democrats equals 1,000. Let's block that in where we can find it. So let's go back to this equation. That's pretty easy. You could plug it in anywhere, either here or here, but that's already solved for R. Let's plug in 1,000 for Democrats. So R equals 3 times 1,000 over 5. And of course 5 will go into 1,000 200 times. So 3 times 200, that's 600. Now that's the original. But the problem says we're trying to figure out after we had those additions. So R plus 600. R is what? 600. So 600, I'm using this equation here. So 600 over 600 plus 600, that gives me 1,200 And that's my Democrats. I'm sorry, that's my Republicans, because that's in the top. And then, what is D? D is 1,000, and 1,000 plus 500 is 1,500. So this was Democrats. This is Republicans. How many more Democrats do you have? Looks like you got 300. There's your answer.